It's time again for the Insiders with Chuck Chvala and Scott Jensen, sponsored by the Wisconsin Counties Association and the Tommy G. Thompson Center on Public Leadership.
Hi, I'm Scott Jensen, former Assembly Speaker.
And I'm Chuck Chvala, former Senate Majority Leader.
And we're the Insiders, and we're excited because the race is on for the Democratic primary for governor. Chuck, there's a lot of people in this race. Who are the top most likely prospects to make it out and win that primary?
Well, if you were to look at the polling, the most recent polling shows there are only three candidates who are in double digits. In other words, 10% or above. And that would be Sarah Rodriguez, Francesca Hong, and Mandela Barnes. And Mandela Barnes leads the pack on that. So those would be, I think if you had to name front runners, I think the only objective measure we have would be the polling. You'll also be interested to know that what I've heard from a variety of sources is that Mandela Barnes' name recognition is very high. It was true in the Marquette poll, 80-some%. I understand that Sarah Rodriguez is in the 60s. Francesca Hong is less, but is doing well with a core group of people from the socialist camp and others in the Democratic Party. So what I think what you're going to see now is those people will continue to work the campaign, trying to advance, and obviously to maintain themselves. The big thing will be who of the remaining four will break out. And will that be probably only one of them? And does it become a four-way race then? I think more likely it's going to narrow down to two or at most three. So who are the people in the rest of that camp? That would be David Crowley, who's the county exec in Milwaukee, who obviously is well known over there and was the biggest fundraiser in the last report, but that was in January. The report came in January through the end of December. There will be Missy Hughes, who's the WEDC secretary out there. There's going to be Kelda Roys, who has gotten an endorsement and is aggressively campaigning out there. And Joel Brennan, who was worked in the Evers administration and worked for Tom Barrett. Probably the best thing going for Joel Brennan is that he has Tom Barrett's endorsement. Tom Barrett is beloved in the Democratic Party by just about everyone. But with that group, I think a lot of it is going to come down to who decides to go out and spend money and has the money to be able to spend, because once you go up, the conventional wisdom is that you have to stay there. So if I had to give you right now a handicapping, I'd say that the three leaders are obviously in it. And then the question is, will someone else break out of the other four? And of course, as that goes, will that mean that anyone in the top three will go down? I think the fact that Sarah Rodriguez is growing her base and in the sense of name recognition, and also that she's considered in some polling the second choice for a lot of people, I think she'll stay there. Francesca Hong has a certain base with the hard left in the Democratic Party. Whether she can grow that is really a big question, but that would allow her to stay. Mandela Barnes, I think, is potentially more volatile in this process as to where he sits. And then one of the other four who will make the run to be part of the contenders. That's where you're at, which leaves you with a very muddled race, as you can see. But I expect that you're going to see somebody surge forward. And I think we'll have a pretty good idea when we're only a couple of weeks out from the election, the primary election.
Well, I mean, there are a lot of people in this race, and yet very few of them are well known at all. And they don't have a lot of time to make their case. They got about 6 weeks before you have early voting beginning in this race. So most people don't have any name identification. They're not well known. They don't have a brand. The two who do have a brand are the leaders in this race as far as I can see it. You've got Francesca Hong, who has a clear brand. I'm the feisty socialist candidate in this race. You've got Mandela Barnes. You remember me. I ran for United States Senate a couple of years ago. You got Sarah Rodriguez trying to come up with some money, but no one has even spent $1 million at this point. In fact, I think Tom Tiffany has spent more money than all of the Democratic candidates combined here. And yet there's 6 weeks to go before people start voting in this nomination. Someone's got to find a way to break out. They either have to have a policy proposal that catches fire, or they got to take shots at Mandela Barnes to drag his numbers down. You've seen they've been trying to take shots at Francesca Hong to bring her numbers down. I think they only helped her by saying, oh, she has credit card debt. Like what? Almost everybody else? I mean, that was in the era of affordability questions. That was a dumb shot, whoever took that shot at her. So I don't know how people are going to break out of this race. There's not a lot of time. You can try to spend, if you had a lot of money, you could do it, but none of them has a lot of money. So it's going to be fascinating. Someone could come in, and we saw this in a couple other races already this year where there's like three candidates in the 22, 23%, and that's a point difference between them is who's going to decide who the next nominee is on the Democratic side. I think it could be very, very close with three or four candidates grouped at the top. And I would not count someone like Hong, who has a dedicated base out there, or like Mandela Barnes, who could be a default for people going, "Well, I like a lot of these folks, but I'm more familiar with him."
Well, if you're a Democrat, the first thing I would say to you is do not walk, run away from whoever Scott Jensen tells you is the guy to a woman to be the nominee for the Democratic Party. Scott, you've noticed, has spent a lot of time talking about Mandela Barnes and Francesca Hong. I think we need to point out that 80% of people voting in the Democratic primary want the person who is most electable in November. And if you do that analysis, you don't come up with Francesca Hong or Mandela Barnes. There are a variety of other people there who could be elected. Francesca Hong and Mandela Barnes are two people that maybe could be elected, probably could be elected, but there's no guarantee. And with 80% of the people saying who's electable, I think you're going to see a lot of changes before we get to the primary vote and the actual decision. And I doubt that they're going to be Democrats voting will be following Scott's advice, but there will be plenty of opportunity for people to learn a lot about all of these candidates. Right now, there are only three who are in double digits. That's Sarah Rodriguez, Francesca Hong, and Mandela Barnes. But that can change. And I also think that, given where the public is at on electability for the Democratic primary, I think it could change to move away from the people that Scott is mentioning most frequently.
Boy, I don't know. If I was a Democratic primary voter, I think the choice you're facing here is: do you want the feisty woman with the tats, or do you want the woman you could bring home to meet mom? Are you willing to settle, or do you want to go with your heart? And usually primary voters go with their heart rather than settle on the person they can win. They want the person who they're close, who they believe the same things with. So I'll be surprised. I think we'll all be surprised in this short period of time. There's a lot of roller coaster on this roller coaster ride.
Democrats have been in the wilderness for 16 years. They know that whoever gets elected this time is going to have to win in 2030 as well. I think they are going to be very focused on who will not only win in the fall, but who will win in 2030 and who will be able to drag along the majority in the assembly. And those are probably not the people that Scott is trumpeting today. I think you're going to see a Democratic primary electorate that's going to be very savvy. They're going to focus on who's going to be good to bring home to mom, who's going to be good to bring home to mom now, who's going to be able to do a good job as being the leader of the party in 2030, and who can bring home that assembly Democratic majority. And by the way, it is not lost on Democrats at all that the place where we get assembly majorities and Senate majorities is not in Milwaukee and Madison. It's around the state of Wisconsin. How's that going to play in the rest of the state of Wisconsin? Who do you want out there? And there are plenty of candidates who can bring home the bacon for Democrats in the fall if you think carefully about what you want to do.
Chuck,
so we'll see.
Better. You know better than to believe that politics is logical. It's not logical. It's emotional. It is an emotional thing. Someone needs to capture the heart of the voters here. We'll see who does it on the Democratic side.
Sounds good. See you next time.
You've been listening to The Insider with Chuck Chvala and Scott Jensen, sponsored by the Wisconsin Counties Association and the Tommy G. Thompson Center on Public Leadership.